Hey guys, Underground Geek here. So I just wanted to do this little video here to talk about what's happening in the comic book industry in general and kind of get your guys' feedback on what you think is going on. So, we've got this older generation of comic book lovers like Diversity in Comics, Captain Cummings, and Captain Frugal has let me know that he is, in fact, not a 27-year-old. So he is in that generation of older comic book fans as well. And they like the classic comics just like we do. They're a little bit more conservative about certain things. They like the old school hero aspect that everyone's grown up loving. So when Marvel and a couple of the DC writers and a lot of the indie writers go and try to destroy the image of our comic book heroes, we get upset about that. And the reason we get upset is we have a lot invested in them. They were our heroes growing up, and you're trying to take them away from us. So now you've got this new generation of comic book fans coming up, and most of them are going to be millennials. So most of them are going to be more on the liberal side, and that's because everything kind of travels in cycles. Um, you had the last generation that was very conservative, so therefore this generation rebelled and became more liberal. And the next generation that's coming right after us is more conservative again. And everything seems to travel in cycles. Now, that's I kind of think of that as a good thing because you always get a little bit of a shakeup and things get changed and things usually turn out for the better. Uh, but what's happening nowadays is you've got this group of people that are making comics, and it's more the millennial group to a little bit older. Um, I would consider myself a millennial, but at the same time, I'm not in that same group of people because I'm able to think for myself. So therefore, I've chosen to go the more intelligent route. But anyway, that's a whole different story. But you've got this group of people that are making comic books that want to make everything exclusive to themselves. They only want a certain group to read comics because they feel like this group's been oppressed and have had issues, and they're not able to stand on their own 2 feet. When the problem that's actually going on is these people don't want to read comic books. They're just not interested in that kind of stuff. They're more what you call the fake geek people. They know what Nintendo is. They know what Mortal Kombat is. They know what Captain America is and Marvel Comics are. And they've got a Star Trek kit in their basement hanging from the ceiling. And it's just this whole generation of they're not really diehard fans. They just like a little bit of everything. They like to wear a T-shirt that has a TARDIS on it, saying, my other vehicle is the TARDIS. Haha! I watched Doctor Who once in a lifetime. And those are the people that are making comics, and they're making them more for this group of people that don't want to read the comics. And you've got this problem now to where they've alienated the regular fan base, and this next generation that's coming is going to be more conservative. They're going to want the old school heroes, and they're going to want men to be men and women to be women, and it's happening now. I've noticed with my brother, which is a lot younger than me, and his generation is they're becoming more conservative. The liberals are putting themselves in an echo chamber to separate themselves from other people, and then you've got this other generation that are the regular people that are conservative, and they want the real Captain America. They want the real Iron Man. They want the real Hulk because that represents masculinity and it represents the American way. Hard-working people, and these people that are writing the comics just don't understand that. That these people like to do things their own way. They don't want anybody to tell them not to do things. They're very vulgar when you talk to them about things. They don't have any principles, and it's important to have morals and principles when you do things. Like they say, well, everybody's their own person, things like that. Just because I don't have the same moral standards as you, I'm not bad, and that's true. But you need to have some morals. Okay, you need to know what right and wrong is, and you need to stand up for what's right, and not always go the route of, well, I'm going to do things the way I want, and if you don't like it, I'm going to block you. Okay, and that's what's happening. And then they're making these comics and they're selling 10 to 12,000 an issue. And I can tell you one thing right now. I still would buy more Marvel comics than DC comics just off the covers, and that's what they're banking on. They're banking on releasing all these variants and you buying these comics. And I've talked about this before, but I just want to go back over it again. They're not Marvel does not make good comics right now, but they make like 9 or 10 variants of classic things that fake geek people like and that regular geek people like, and they're going to buy it just for that cover, and they might skim through it a little bit and then say, "Oh, this was a great comic because of the cover," and that's what Marvel kind of banks on. DC, they kind of struggle with different covers. They have some really good artists, but they kind of struggle with making a lot of good covers. They'll make 1 or 2 very good variants that I want to get, and then the stories are awesome. They're amazing because they're written by regular people. Like Scott Snyder, you get on his Twitter and he's hanging out with his kids. He's going to museums. He's doing what regular people do. And then you've got other people like that, Magdalene Visaggio and the other dude that blocked me. I can't remember his name. That write comics, and they're just sheltered. They're in a basement all day. They're in their little 1-bedroom apartment all day, sipping on their Starbucks, and they don't realize that if you don't get out and make these life events, if you don't have a life, it's not going to make for a good story. People write what they know. I think Diversity in Comics has talked about this. They write what they know, and if you don't know anything besides what your Twitter account has on it, you're going to become a very bitter person. When I did sales as a job, they had this thing called negativity and positivity suckers. Okay, if you're selling things, you need to have a positive attitude, and that would usually come across to the customer, and they would like that. If you get around these negative people, they bring you down as well because they're sucking the positivity literally out of your body. And then you'll go and be humdrum and you won't sell anything. And that's kind of what's happened here. These people become very bitter towards regular society. They hate society. They want to change everything that is in society nowadays. They want to make everything not important, and they want to bring their own values in, which are really no values at all. Everybody do what you want. And I have no problem with them doing their own thing, but don't try to make me do what you're doing, okay? Don't try to make me buy a comic that has your values in it because it's not going to work. And if Marvel would just understand, there are customers sitting here waiting, wanting to buy their comics. I love Spider-Man. I love Captain America. I love Wolverine. I love Iron Man. That's my thing. And my favorite character out of all the comics is Venom. He's a Marvel character. Okay? And they just don't understand that we want their regular people back. Like Venom right now is arguably a good character in the comics. Now he's not really doing anything. They kind of brought him back just to sell more comics. Now they're doing the Venomverse, which I'll tell you has got my attention because I love anything Venom. So I like it, but he's not really doing anything. And I really feel like they should bring him back into Spider-Man a little bit, have him do his own thing with Spider-Man again, have him go back to classic Venom. If you're going to go to all the trouble to quit a good series like Agent Venom and Venom Space Knight and bring back Eddie Brock, make him the original Venom again. Okay, don't make him just, hey, we're Eddie Brock, we're Venom. Okay, in the next 2 issues, we're going to have him in the Venomverse because we don't know what to do with him. So we're just going to have him Venomverse. Everybody's Venom. Okay, cool. That doesn't work. They really need to, I think they really need to clean house, and they need to put these people on indie comics, their lower end comics, and they need to hire these good writers that write good standard stories to do their stories again. And they need to stop doing so many events. They need to look at what DC is doing with Rebirth, and they need to copy that as hard as they can. They need to do everything they can to go back to the classic comics. Why don't they watch their movies? That's another thing. Why don't they just watch their Marvel movies and go, these are making billions of dollars. Maybe we should do what they're doing. Wrong. We're going to do our own thing because trans and lesbians and everything not standard thinking is the way we need to be because you're not being inclusive to everybody and you're not being diverse. You're holding them back. No, they're holding themselves back because they don't want to read comic books. Okay? 10 people on your Twitter telling you that you're doing a great job does not count as the fan base. The fan base are those hundreds of thousands of people that were buying your comics 10 years ago, and now they're not buying them anymore. Okay? And this is coming from a fan. I'll tell you a little bit of my background. I liked comics growing up, and then I kind of got busy with my work life, and I didn't really read them anymore. So I've only recently got back into them in probably the last 4 or 5 years, thanks to a couple of friends of mine that are into them, and one of them actually happens to be a liberal. He's the one that got me started reading comic books again. And then I started reading the comics and realizing these are not the same stories. You know, I just didn't listen to what everybody else said. I read the comics and I didn't like them. And then Rebirth came out for DC, and I was like, I will give this a shot. And then about the same time, Civil War II came out, and I said, hey, I'll give this a shot. So there was the mid-2000s where I haven't really read comics, and I came back into it. So it's kind of like I'm a new generation reader. And Rebirth comes out, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And Civil War comes out, I'm like, And it slowly I lost interest in it and stopped buying the issues. I told myself, hey, I'm going to buy every issue of Civil War, including with all the spinoffs and everything. I'm going to get every one of them. No, I just couldn't make myself do it because it wasn't good. And I'm not going to buy something that's not good. So by the end of Civil War II, I was completely jaded with Marvel. Okay. And this is coming from a guy, again, that has been a long-time fan but just got back into reading again. And I tell you, Marvel is going to have to do something different because DC is mopping the floor with them. When they can come out with like a KFC comic and all this stuff, and Batman and Elmer Fudd, and they're making money with it, they really need to think about where they're at as a comic industry, because what's going to happen is it's going to be like my comic store down the street from me, my local comic store. They didn't even order Marvel Legacy. Did you hear that? They didn't even order Marvel Legacy. Not one copy. And when I asked them why they didn't do it, they said, well, because it sucks. And I was just, I was a little taken back by it. I was like, wow, these people are legit. I mean, this is a business now. They're here to make money. So you think that they would just order the comics and just put them out there. But I'm looking at their shelves, and their shelves are literally falling over with copies of Secret Empire and still Civil War II. They've got Civil War II everywhere because they can't sell it. And they realize now that the comics suck, and they're not going to waste their time with them. And it's only a matter of time before the rest of these comic book stores do this, and they start ordering like old issues of Marvel along with DC Rebirth, and they put them out there for $1 or $2 to kind of get people to buy them to make money. And they're going to start failing because Marvel will not get their head out of their tuchus. Okay? And it really makes me sad because I see this new generation coming up, and they're very conservative, and they're totally going to be thrown off by Marvel. They're not going to be interested in them, okay? Once they're able to kind of realize the stories that are coming across, they're going, nope, back to reading Batman, because Batman's always Batman, and he's awesome. And, I'm going to read Superman because Superman's always awesome, and I might even read Aquaman, because the new Aquaman's not a wimp. And that's another thing. DC listens. They said, hey, people don't like Aquaman. What can we do to make him better? Well, we'll make him tough like he used to be on Flashpoint. Okay, good job. Let's make some issues and make some money. And I don't know, guys. Maybe I'm completely off basis, but I just wanted to kind of talk about this new generation of comic book fans that's coming up and what they're having to deal with, and talking to the old generation of comic book heroes, and just listen to all the knowledge they have about the old comics. It blows me away how far Marvel has fallen. And they'll continue to fall until they change their ways. But, man, hit like, hit subscribe, tell me what you think in the comments. And I just want to do this video to kind of introduce my background more and talk about what's happening with this new generation of comic heroes. So just let me know what you think. All right, bye.